Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. It's a few minutes after 6. It looks like 7:07. This is Monday, October 6th. We have 6 members of council here. Looks like Jennifer Cochran is not here. We have a quorum, and we will be going here shortly. We have disposition of 2 sets of minutes. The special session held on September 8th, 2014, and the regular session held on September 15th, 2015. Could we have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
All those in favor of accepting the minutes for September 8th and September 15th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. We will adopt those minutes. Communications from
The language is now right,
the council members.
so it doesn't need to be amended. I have a communication, thank you. I'd just like to remind people, on Wednesday, October 15th, there's a public meeting in the community center at 6 o'clock, and this is for to meet with the Environment and Sustainability Commission. They are in the process of doing a sustainability and climate action plan for the city of Athens, and this is an opportunity to have to gather the public to put input into this plan, into this planning process.
Time again?
6 o'clock at the community center.
Thank you.
What date?
Wednesday, next, the
Thank you.
15th,
Thank
October
you.
15th.
Reports, communications from other elected officials. Mayor Weil?
A few things. Let's see. Obviously, the Sustainability Commission that Chris Fall mentioned is coming up. That's the 15th. We're going to have an Arbor Day event. That will be October 17th between 1 and 2 at the middle school. Presentation as well as discussion of the emerald ash borer, since some of the elm trees there are infected. There will also be the 15th, 3 p.m. It's tentative right now. Dowler property acceptance ceremony. The Dowers are going to be in town. This is at Far Hills and Avalon. You'll have to check on the details with the Deputy Service Safety Director on that. Of course, we're having a homecoming coming up, parades, et cetera, so watch out for a parade in motion. The leaf removal map is up and on the website at this point, so the scheduling is such that you're going to see a map like this if you go to the city website. And Area 1 is going to start October 13th, which will be next week, I believe, to October 17th. That will be the first round of leaf pickups. And again, you have the option of putting it on the curb or getting bags and buying some yard waste stickers. Let's see. Also, the city will be open and operate on Columbus Day. That's next Monday. We usually use it as a floating holiday, I think, for either Christmas or Thanksgiving, I forget which. And there'll be, of course, no delay for trash and recycling. This is Fire Prevention Week. That's what my chief Reimer told me to say. So be aware of that. Trick-or-treat, of course, is coming up. There'll be the usual trick-or-treat parade. This will be for during the 27th, I believe? No, the 30th, after the normal citywide trick-or-treat between 5:30 and 6:30. They'll have one at 6:45. They do a parade, they do puzzles, games, dancing, etc. This will be at the community center, starting at 6:45. There will also, I need to mention this, there will be fireworks Friday, somewhere on Richland 682, by the, I guess, Peden Stadium. More homecoming events. So if you hear lots of noise, you'll know what's going on. If you see a fire, you'll know that it's been too dry to do that.
I don't think we're going to have that problem.
Yeah, I think it's raining quite well now. The 18th of this month, also, NAMI is going to have Walk the Walk for mental health awareness, so you want to be aware of that. Tomorrow, College Street's going to be closed between Union and Canton Hall Alley because the university is working on some construction there. It will be starting at 7 a.m. and go to 3 p.m. And I was going to leave it up to the League of Women Voter people on council to talk about the scheduled forums that are occurring. League of Women Voters, in conjunction with the Athens County Library, is having one tomorrow for the Athens County Auditor, including candidates Jill Thompson, Kathy Heck. That's at 6:30. There'll be the 94 State House the next Tuesday. So the next series of Tuesdays, except for the 21st, which has been canceled for the 15th District. And ODOT is also having a stakeholders meeting around the state. They have set 5 of them. The closest one will be October 30th, which I'll mention again, at the community center between 2 and 4. The last thing, of course, is I've appointed to a Christy Zepter to the Planning Commission. She'll be taking place of Nicholas Bittner, who has stepped down. By Ohio Revised Code, I'm the appointee of that. She worked doing zoning and coding coordinator at Grove City between 2007 to 2013. So she has some experience with that. She expressed an interest in getting involved in our community.
Right.
So, and that's all I have.
Auditor Heck.
I just want to let everybody know that our audit, state audit is finished and is posted on the Auditor of State's website if you want to look at it. We've had an independent public accountant audit us for the past 10 years until this year. And so now we actually had state auditors come in and went pretty well. It took longer than usual because they hadn't been here before. But anyway, it's posted, and when we get our official copy from the state, of course, we will be sending it to all of you.
I was under the impression you guys received, did you? No? Okay.
The draft copy that I emailed was to decide if you wanted an exit conference.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
It is just got accepted by the state last week.
Okay, that's what it was.
I don't think anything's changed, but just to be official about it.
We'll move on for ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 8314, an ordinance amending Athens City Code, Title 9, Chapter 9.14, nuisance parties, Section 9.14.99, penalties. Member Patterson, you have anything to say about that? No? This is second reading, so we'll be talking about these next week for third reading. Ordinance 8414, an ordinance amending Athens City Code, Title 9, General Regulations, Chapter 9.01, animals. Member Patterson again. Next week. Ordinance 8514, an ordinance authorizing funds for the Athens Armory Stabilization and Improvement Study and authorizing the mayor to accept donations for the study, design, and renovation. Also, Member Patterson. Ordinance 8614, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into an agreement with the Board of Athens County Commissioners to extend sanitary sewer collection services to unincorporated portions of the county. Member Fall, no comment? Ordinance 8814, an ordinance amending Ordinance 106-06, granting variances from the Athens City subdivision regulations for property located outside the corporate limits, but within the 3-mile jurisdiction, to allow a minor lot split. Member Fall, no comment? Ordinance 8914, an ordinance amending Athens City Code, Title 5, Public Utilities, Chapter 5.02, Garbage and Rubbish, Section 5.02.03, Preparation and Storage. Member Fall.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move to amend this specific ordinance. Second. As many people know out in the community, we've had a go back and forth on this particular ordinance. Many people were not satisfied with the language that was developed in the very beginning. And Michelle Pappy and I worked with the Law Director's Office to try to tighten up the language, make it more understandable and enforceable. So I have put forward in front of everybody who has a copy of the new language that we propose to amend. Basically, it's trying to describe how we would kind of, as a community, want garbage cans and such out of view. Basically, it says Athens City pursuant to Section 50505, or commercial operator, all solid waste and recyclables as defined in Section 50501, shall be kept in containers stored out of view or properly screened from view from the street. Waivers through a written application may be granted by the Service Safety Director or his or her designee. This is amending specifically removing public right-of-way. People had a hard time with the definition of public right-of-way. Streets, I think, is very much seen as being streets that cars drive down as, kind of every day, and not alleyways or walkways or the back of somebody's, fence, to try to tighten that definition. And the waivers, people were very uncomfortable with how we were defining for waivers. And so, and also that there were two different types of waivers that were being talked about. So this, a written application, this is done in several other cities across the nation, and this would be put forward. The Service Safety Director can act upon the waivers as they come in, and also his or her designee. So if people are, this does not preclude a citizens committee that could be asked by the Service Safety Director or the mayor to come forward to deal with tough cases or those sort of things that may have some review of tough situations. So that leaves it, has a more administrative flexibility, but also gives some oversight. So that's my proposal.
Comments, questions from council members? Member Patterson?
I just wanted to say that I'm really pleased to see the waiver process be put back into this mix, because I felt that was one, I felt very strongly about having some mechanism in there for giving individuals with disabilities freedom to choose and to work that through. So I'm really happy to see that take place. I also do feel compelled to at least bring up a definition within code which does speak to alleys under Title 7, 7.1.02. Under definitions, definition A, an alley means a public street which in the city, which, and then it goes through and gives some different examples, which is used primarily for the convenience of the owner or property abutting thereon, and for persons dealing with him. I'm not going to go through and read every one of those definitions, but I do think that if the word street is to be kept in there, that at least from a code enforcement standpoint, that alleys are not viewed as a public street, because it is listed as a public street. So therefore, I would support this, but again, with that one caveat, that an alley is an alley and a street is a street, and that's clear, so that it's not subjectively walking around to an alley because it is listed as a public street and going, okay, well, here's a public street, and therefore it is a citable street.
Right. Well, I think, as we have discussed many seemingly hours in this process, you cannot write legislation that covers all caveats. And well, you could, but they would be an ordinance that's about 45 pages long, and that's just not a possibility. So, legislation and administration have to kind of go hand in hand. I think one of the process through this whole process, which I think is good, is that people, I've been told this by many people drive around and they're seeing garbage cans. And so I think people, and I was talking to Paula, the Service Safety Director, Paula Mosley, is that people, it's not out of sight, out of mind, but people don't think about it. Now people are starting to think about it more, and it's in the forefront of people's mind, and so people will start dealing with it. And from what I understand from some of the history of the last time that this was revisited, is that was the same thing, is that people got really good afterwards, and things were cleaned up, and then maybe there's a certain amount of time where you get turnover, and and homeowners and turnover and, you know, property owners and then turnover in administration and turnover in legislation, that now is the time, you know. And I was happy to see in the A News somebody suggesting to paint garbage cans, you know, like, I looked online in Google for funky garbage can screens, and there was a lot of really cool things, and Athens I think that it could be really fun. We can have a garbage can screen competition. I mean, so I don't think it's as serious as everybody's taking it to, so.
Other council members have comments, questions? Ma'am?
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
I applaud the differences as well. And I was just curious, I wonder, and this doesn't have to be determined tonight or not, but in the first whereas and looking at the enforcement date of January 1st, sort of alluding back to something that Member Patterson had mentioned with the inclement weather arising and time to give people an opportunity to put an effective screen in, because likewise, plantings could take place. There are shrubbery and bushes that could be well done and beautifully installed that might act as a screen that won't be able to take perhaps this late in the fall. I'm not sure. It's not my specialist area, but
Right.
so I don't know if that'd be necessary to consider changing that date or tweaking it or looking at the.
Yeah. I agree. I think that, you know, things like planting and stuff would take at least a year. So I guess the thing is that you don't want to put it off too far in advance because people forget about it. But you want it to be, the people have the ability to do the different types of screening or so.
It seems that administratively, you know, you send a letter to the service safety director and say, I live at such and such address or own such and such address, and I believe I can have it meet the requirement by such and such a date, whether it's June 1st, whether it's January 1st, whatever. And then you have that on file, and, you know. I think there's a way to work with the community.
Similar to the waiver.
Well, yeah, you just send a letter and say, we would like to comply, but we need some time due to cement or whatever it is that they're doing. Seems like a reasonable possibility.
Thank you.
Yes. Reisner?
Back to the properly screened from view. Okay, that could include trees and bushes and shrubs, but would that also include fencing? And would that not then get into some code issues?
That's the properly.
And again, I think that's something you check with the service safety director or her designee or however that happens. And, you know, some properties are more difficult than others.
Right. I'm just trying to think what would happen if someone said, I want to put a nice little wooden screened fence in my front yard. You know, right in front of the house instead of behind it or to the side. Wouldn't that be a code issue there?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm just asking in general.
What are you asking exactly?
We already know the answer to that.
Well, yeah, I think that rhetorically, we can say, I think most people will look at this and say, yes, we understand that we need to take control of our garbage situation in the city. I can do X, Y, and Z. Most people, I think, will say, oh, I can stick it behind the house and, you know, the back corner. I just haven't been doing it, or I haven't been telling my tenants to do it because it's kind of been out of mind for so many years. And that people will, in good conscience, if they need to do something with screening, you know, obviously the first choice for me would be, you know, plantings and things like that, because that not only screens the garbage, but also does a lot of other things for the city with beautification and such. And those places that really have a hard time, yeah, they're going to have to build some kind of screening, and they're going to have to look at that and work with it. So, however, I think that is probably going to be a small proportion of the city, and that if we sit here and worry about all the, what ifs and worst case scenarios, nothing ever will get done.
Members of the audience,
Steve has something.
please. Oh, I'm sorry, we have another council member.
I just,
Excuse me.
for clarity's sake, I just want to go back real quick to the issue of when the ordinance initially had in there an effective date. And so are we striking the effective date and that 30 days after this has its final vote on third reading?
No, I think that probably
Oh,
to kind of indicate January 1 is still in there.
it is. I'm sorry.
So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
And I think that also kind of goes to the fact that we understand that it's in the middle of winter, and Athens has always been a city that has worked with their landowners and homeowners and such, so.
Okay. If you have something to say, please come up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
Beverly Flanagan, 132 North Lancaster. This proposed ordinance still doesn't satisfy me or members of my beautification committee, I'm sure. To leave these decisions in the hands of the service safety director and or her designee simply returns us to the status quo. That's what's happening now. The decisions are far too arbitrary. There are no principled criteria as far as we know. We were asking for principled criteria before these decisions are made, and we would suggest, or at least I suggested, a citizens committee from the outset, 3 to 5 members, not just citizens, council, code would be also represented, of course, but that committee would weigh each request for a waiver in view of principled criteria, and we would like those spelled out. Waivers should not be easy to obtain. They should be very difficult. And then, of course, put on file in the public record so that all can see them. I do not think that you are going far enough at this point. And I might mention that the mayor has found a section of code, he communicated that to me, that might solve this problem with a little tweaking. A citizens committee, citizens and others on a committee that might decide such decisions very expeditiously. I would recommend that you look at that. I don't remember the number, Mr. Mayor.
It'd be in Chapter 3. You're talking about the Housing Board of Appeals.
Yeah.
There used to be a Housing Board of Appeals that existed many years ago. There hasn't been a membership of that for many years. I believe it was actually appointed by council. You need to look into the section, Chapter 3, boards and commissions. It is kind of an unwieldy commission as it is. I think 5 members, 2 alternates, but it requires somebody from real estate, a landlord, a tenant, and a mixture of that. They cover pretty much everything in the Housing Code 29, but this would also include, Title 29, which is part of what you have here. And of course, that refers to Title 5, which is for the rubbish. In terms of something like accessory structures, like the garbage containers, what we talk about in terms of the fencing, as well as screening, that would be Title 23. That would have to go through Zoning Board of Appeals. Essentially, when you look at 230311, basically no accessory structure will be located closer to the street than required front setback of principal structure. So in other words, 25 feet from the front setback. So when you talk about topography issues, probably they would not make it. Now, in theory, by how we work most of the time, if you look at code, if the fronts of the buildings are all the same and within a setback, we allow it. In terms of screening, of course, that no fence or wall, regardless of height, shall extend beyond the building front setback in accordance to those zoning standards and regulations. In other words, 25 feet for an R1. So you pay back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the fencing, for the sheds or whatever you want to call accessory structure. If it's attached to the house, of course, it's part of the structure, and therefore you still have the same issue in terms of increasing a footprint in a non-conforming manner. In terms of just a waiver that Beverly's talking about, would probably to reestablish and probably rework the membership for the Housing Board of Appeals. I was trying to find it, whether it references in a Ohio Revised Code. I did not find that. So I don't know if it's something that we've made whole cloth, but I imagine it's not. So these are things to look at. I don't know if the membership's required either.
Mayor, do we know why it stopped in the first place?
Because there
How
were no
many years
cases.
ago?
Most of them had to do with housing issues in terms of structures for rentals in many cases. If I remember, some of the discussion would be size of window for rental, certain types of structures for it, but I don't know. It just covers things outside Title 23, the zoning code.
But it ended a period of time ago.
There were never that many members, and there's never been cases put forward, so.
So 20 years ago, I mean, I don't recall it in my time.
I don't remember ever seeing it meet when I was on Zoning Board of Appeals, so therefore that's at least from the mid-90s. And I've never had a call to actually try getting membership. As I say, the membership's pretty specific, and getting all those people just to say, I'll be on it and never meet would be a difficult proposition. I think there is a requirement for the meeting regularly, but I would investigate that and see if it can be morphed into what you want to do, if that's where you
Brought
want
to
go.
this, yeah.
Just a concept. Again, this is part of the code.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at that section of code too, and it just seemed too unwieldy, which may be why it was never exercised, and people may not have known about it either. The membership criteria were very stringent. You could certainly simplify that, it seems to me, and make it workable. But that way, we would start with a committee that would make decisions rather than resorting to the status quo, which is that the safety service director and or her designee make all the decisions alone. We are not happy about that.
So could the designee be this board?
Yes.
Well, look at investigate it, because right now,
Yeah.
unless you either go administratively or you go through a board system, and you already have, if there's already a board that's been on the books already, reinvigorating would be the way to go.
Right.
However-
I will.
My
men-
understanding that from working with the law director's office is that the designee can be, the idea, okay, we can put this forward and do some public trust of administrative people that waivers, I mean, I would hate to see every single waiver have to go through an unwieldy, no matter how many people are on it, board, because that, somebody who needs it because they're pregnant and they can't waddle down to the end of, and put out the garbage can, which is, I waddled a whole lot when I was pregnant. We have to have some kind of administrative flexibility, and that's why his or her designee is in there, because there may be a point where the applications are coming in for all sorts of things that the service safety director doesn't feel comfortable giving a waiver for, and then they can ask for an appointment of a board. But all the regular ones of, somebody who for whatever reason, disability, whatever, so this is trying to provide more flexibility for administrative sort of thing than having a board, which takes a lot of time, and that it doesn't preclude a board being put forward. And the thing is, in my opinion, that if we wanted to go for a board, we would have to table the amendment. We'd have to table the whole ordinance and work on trying to fit that board designation into the ordinance.
May I make one more comment? I'm sorry to be cynical, but I'm afraid that suggestion would not work. I think the designee would probably be the code director, and I would like something that applies toward the future, beyond the present administration, that would be firm and in place for the future. I see nothing wrong with a 3-member board. I think a board could make very rational decisions, rational and aesthetic decisions. Those are my two principles. and avoid cages that stick out into the right-of-way in front of a house, as is presently the case in at least one house I know of. And that would simply avoid all these little ifs, ands, and buts. I think this is easily workable if you just take another month or two. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens like to speak? Okay. Come up and please introduce yourself.
My name is Meredith Chereau, and I live on West State Street. I just want to emphasize, which came out of our West Side Community Association meeting on the Beautification Committee, about the waiver and making sure that there is a committee established that can set up criteria so that they have guidelines to follow. And I think this could be done more easily than into something that's going to take a lot of committee time. But I think that I think it should be a committee and not just one individual from the code committee. We feel very strongly about the committee setup.
Thank you for bringing that to us. Member Paul, are we going ahead with this?
I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second on the table.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's, I've done this twice, trying to get language and working with the law director's office of trying to do this, Michelle and I. If people aren't happy with it, then I would withdraw my amendment and I would move to table it, because obviously this is still something that needs to be discussed. People aren't comfortable with it sounds like it's more of the waiver. And I guess my opinion is sometimes you have to go forward and do some of the work. It's just like with Title 41. We put forward Title 41 and we did that, and a year later we went and reviewed it and updated the ordinance for Title 40. We updated Title 41 because the process showed where there were things that were insufficient in the ordinance. And just because it's set in law doesn't mean that it's set in stone. And but I am happy.
I would just add that I think administratively the mayor's office and the service safety director has gotten a lot of feedback and a lot from neighborhood groups about what the values, what they'd like to see here in Athens, which is why this came forward in the first place, to amend the language and to look at the language of the current ordinance. And I would hope that administratively, that if we move forward, knowing how strongly people feel about this, and this has been on the agenda, that the concerns that have come forward this evening from our audience would not happen, that we could try to move forward in this type of language and meet what the concerns are of the community.
Okay. Member Fall, so we'll have one more reading.
Well, I think we have to vote on the amendment.
No, we have the amendment.
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
We have a
to
motion for
vote.
an amendment and it's been seconded.
Right.
We need to vote on it.
Right. So.
Okay.
The mayor had one more point.
Again, having no knowledge of how the operating Housing Board of Appeals existed, I do not know their voting record offhand. I know when I sat in on the Zoning Board of Appeals and having gone to workshops about that, it was a high expectation of refusals. I think they were always citing about 85% refusals. It was the norm. But if you were to look at the record of Zoning Board of Appeals as we are now, it's not really that, not even close. So be aware of any board that you put in there. You may instruct to be stringent on the interpretation. It may not occur. And you do have a motion and a second. Is that where we are right now?
That's correct.
Okay, so as I say, a board is not always a cure-all either, okay? Your fellow citizens, depending on how you pick them and what their idea of aesthetics are.
So we have a change to the language in this ordinance, and so we need to vote to accept that or not. Council members in favor of accepting the change in 8914 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. So we will go ahead, back to first reading? Back to
Read for the first time.
Okay, read for the first time. Moving on to ordinance 8514, an ordinance authorizing funds for the Athens Armory Stabilization and Improvement Study and authorizing the mayor to accept donations for the study, design, and renovation.
We did that.
Did I skip?
We're
Are we on to 90?
Forgot, I didn't turn the page. Ordinance 9014, an ordinance amending Athens City Code, Title 29, Housing Regulations, Chapter 29.12, Premises, Conditions, in Sections 29.12.01, Sanitary Requirements, and 29.12.02, Citations. Member Fall.
Nope. Thank you.
Ordinance 9114, an ordinance amending Athens City Code, Title 5, Chapter 5.02, Garbage and Rubbish, Section 5.02.11, Uncollected Rubbish and Refuse a Nuisance. Member Fall. And canine equipment no longer needed for municipal purpose, and authorizing the mayor to donate same to the Athens County Sheriff's Office. Member Nisley. No. Ordinance 9314, an ordinance providing for the issuance of $573,411 of notes by the City of Athens, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying part of the cost of acquiring a new pumper truck and related equipment, and declaring an emergency. Member Nisley.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules on ordinance 9314.
Second?
The purpose for the suspension being to assure that we have the funds in place for the purchase of the pumper truck while the quote for the discount is still in good order during October.
Council members, all those in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 9314 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, Member Nisley, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance 9314.
Second.
Second.
And this particular ordinance, as stated in the title, is to provide for the issuance of notes so that we can issue a bond for the purchase of the new pumper truck. It will replace a 1991, I believe, pumper truck that is well beyond its hours of operation. It pays for the new truck and hoses and equipment that go along with that. As stated, the amount we will be borrowing will be $573,411. Our interest rate will be 0.3 through Hocking Valley Bank. We're very appreciative of that. And as Councilmember Patterson has noted before, we're appreciative of the donation from Ohio University towards purchase of our past ladder truck and then also this upcoming pumper truck.
Okay. Mayor, did you have something? Okay. All those in favor of ordinance 9314 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 9414, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into contract with Pierce Manufacturing to purchase a fire pumper truck and declaring an emergency. Member Patterson.
This one also calls for suspension, if I'm not mistaken. I'd like to move to suspend
Second.
ordinance 9414.
Second.
We had a second.
Thank you. Again, as Member Nicely so eloquently put it, this is to buy a pumper truck, and so basically this is allowing the Service Safety Director to enter into a contract and to honor the bid as the bid came forward, which does have a timeline of October. Any questions?
I just have one question. The ladder truck, is this the same company we bought the ladder truck from?
different.
Different company. Thank you.
This one's Pierce, the other one is Stupin.
Something.
And again, that's they're working on it.
Yeah.
It's an 8 to 9 month build out for the pumper truck anyway.
Yes.
But anyway, that said, I'd like to move to adopt ordinance 9414.
Second?
All those in favor of ordinance 9414 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. This ordinance 9414 is also adopted. Ordinance 9514, an ordinance declaring the fire pumper truck no longer needed for a municipal purpose. Introduced by Councilmember Nisley. Ordinance 9614, an ordinance amending the 2014 appropriation ordinance. Member Nisley.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules for ordinance 9614.
Second.
And the purpose for this being that we now have an invoice pending for this additional appropriation amount for the repairs on the house on Richland Avenue.
Excuse me? Repairs on?
Repairs on the house for Richland Avenue.
Okay. All those in favor of suspending the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Member Nisley?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been suspended. I move to adopt ordinance 9614.
Second.
And this appropriation adds to a $75,000 repair bill that was previously appropriated for renovations to a house that the city owns. It's located on Richland Avenue. It's adjacent to the Richland Avenue Fire Department. The house is being pretty well stripped, gutted, refurbished, and also has some universal accessibility design features to it. And the purpose of the house, once it's finished, will be to offer it for low and moderate income housing. So this particular appropriation tonight is $5,000 additional dollars that are needed to complete those renovations. So it will come out of the CDBG fund, which is the Community Development Block Grant Fund, which is where the funds are done.
Ordinance 9614, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is adopted. We're going to move on to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 9714, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to accept the donations received to purchase perimeter lighting for the uptown area and to enter into contract for installation. Member Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend ordinance 9714.
Second.
And the purpose of this being, as we mentioned in committee last week, these are the perimeter lights that the city is working with the Uptown Business Association, and the purpose for suspending would be to try and have the construction completed before the end of the year, before the cold weather sets in.
Okay. All those in favor of suspending ordinance 9714 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is adopted. Member Nisley again.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance 9714.
Second.
And this particular ordinance would appropriate up to $52,000 from the Athens Enhancement Fund. And we have a quote, I think, for approximately $51,000 right now, so we've rounded it up to $52,000. We might note that the university has contributed $20,000 towards the project, and then the Athens Uptown Business Association has contributed an additional $28,877. So most of the costs will be paid by those two groups, and so we really welcome that. It's going to have a feature which will allow the city to, by computer, switch the lights on and off. And as we understand, the lights will be at specific, particular request times for special events, including like the holiday times when there are rides and special events going up in December in the uptown area. We did have a request forwarded to me from Michelle, Councilmember Pappy, about whether they were energy efficient lights and how much they might contribute to light pollution, which was a very good comment from a citizen, so I thank for that input. And we did hear from Deputy Service Safety Director Ron Lucas that the lighting, they're LED lights, so they are energy efficient. As mentioned, they'll be on for only requested special events or the holidays. The lights are intended to be facing downward when they are installed. So we didn't have, I don't think we had the last of the specs on the lighting, but to know that they're LED and they're replacing lights that are 20 years old. So, and they won't be on all the time. Councilmember Butler.
Thank you. I just wanted to express my gratitude publicly to the mayor's office for working with the Uptown Business Association and the private entrepreneurs that were supporting this, as well as Ohio University. So I wanted to make that comment. Likewise, I wanted to know if my birthday counts as a special occasion, because I think that'd be pretty fun to have it all lit up.
Always.
Great, thank you. Stupendous.
Okay. All those in favor
I'm
of...
sorry, there's one more comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody else?
Just that I'm glad to hear the clarification on the light pollution. I don't know if everyone sitting here tonight or people out in the city are aware that there is a light pollution ordinance out there. And so this was an important element, that we don't have a bunch of excess upcast lighting in the uptown area. So that's good to hear. But I too am really looking forward to the beautification that this is going to provide. I always like the outline of the cityscape.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 9714 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is passed as read. Moving on to ordinance 9814, an ordinance amending Athens City Code, Title 29, Housing Regulations, Chapter 29.03, Rental, Dwelling, and Housing Permits, Section 29.03.07, Expirations and Renewals. Member Patterson.
Mr. President, those of you probably remember when we were talking about the rental permit fees going up, one of the oversights was that there also something that needs to accompany this is under expirations and renewals, which is to remove from code the $20 flat fee, because that fee will change.
Ordinance 9914, an ordinance amending ordinance 08313, establishing fees as required by the Athens City Code. Again, Member Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was brought to my attention not too long ago. Of course, there will be the amendments to the rental permit fee section, which is 29.03.04. But we have been already talking about the under Title V. It also, within this particular piece of legislation, it also speaks to, or code, to section 5.02.03D, which is citations for garbage and rubbish violation. And so therefore, we need to make an amendment to this to where the $20 first offense fee, 40, 60, 80, 100 reflects that of the code that's moving forward, which has already been mentioned tonight, which is to increase those fees. And those fees are going up to $50, $75, $100, $125, and $150 under that particular section. The first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So we're going to need to, again, amend. So I'd like to move to amend ordinance 99.14.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of amending ordinance 9914, signify by saying aye.
So
Oh, we
that's-
have the mayor, I'm sorry.
Okay, so that's to reflect ordinances 8914 and 9014, which has the citations in it. So really just making sure that both are work with each other. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. Just asking.
Okay, now, all those in favor of amending ordinance 9914, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Member Patterson. So we've changed everything,
I believe we have.
and we've read it for the first time? Okay. Okay. We're at ordinance 114, an ordinance amending ordinance O-140-13, authorizing the Service Safety Director to suspend temporarily the fee for parking at metered spaces in the municipal parking garage. Member Pappy.
Thank you. I believe this does not need to be suspended, but I do need to discuss it briefly. I believe all the dates are in order. I will go through that, though. We are authorizing to suspend the 2-hour metered spaces, and they will begin 5 p.m. on Thursday, December 4th and 11th. So these are 2 dates, shopping dates, really, and event dates. And then all day Saturday, December 6th and 13th. And then beginning Saturday, December 15th, the fee will be suspended at all times through midnight on Tuesday, January 2nd. So that is to encourage activities in our uptown area and free parking. Member Nyson?
Yes, as I understand, it's above the second level.
Yeah, it says excluding the 2-hour zone.
Yeah. So people need to look.
One upper.
Right, for the signs, to make sure they go above the first level, second level.
Okay. And that was the only? Okay. So we have ordinance 101-14, an ordinance amending ordinance 141-13, suspending Athens City Code, section 7.05.03, continuous parking in the same location from Monday, December 15th, 2014, until midnight on Friday, January 2nd, 2015. Member Pappy again.
Thank you. So again, as many know, over the holiday season, our streets are quite empty. And for those residents who are here for the holiday or maybe don't need to take a car where they're going, they're allowed to park on the street from Monday, December 15th through Friday, January 2nd. So we suspend the 24-hour parking rule during that period of time.
Comments? Questions? Ordinance 102-14, an ordinance amending ordinance 73-14, suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting, to allow vending in a designated area on October 25th and 26th, 2014, which is Halloween weekend, and declaring an emergency. Member Cochran isn't here.
I can discuss.
Okay.
I believe we do need to suspend, right. So I move to suspend 102.14.
Second.
Okay.
So,
We can go ahead and do that. And then we can discuss.
okay.
Okay. All those in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 102.14 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. The rules have been suspended. Member Pappy?
Thank you, Mr. President. Before we amend, this is pretty detailed, we should probably discuss it a little bit. This is the type of ordinance that we pass when we close Court Street. And we have to take quite a few things into consideration for safety and for vending. There's one important notation this year. We have reduced the fee for vendors to a lower fee. So vendors currently holding a license to vend, our fee is dropping to $100 for the event. And those vendors currently holding a peddler solicitor license for 4 months since last Halloween shall pay a special vending fee of $200. No registration fee will be required for the first space for charitable organizations, civic groups, nonprofits. And we are reducing the fee from $500 to $300 for one space for all others. The other addition this year, all vendors must have an approved trailer that is self-sufficient for power with battery or propane. Generators shall not be permitted. Electric service will be available for an additional $50 per trailer. I think these were put into place to accommodate some of the issues and help with the playing field for vendors and solicitors. Steve?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, and in particular, the last section that you just read, where it's the additional $50 per trailer for power if they need electricity at these sites. Just to share with everyone that if you've ever been uptown at a festival, you see that a lot of the power is being tapped into on the city street the street poles, the lamp posts. But I think more importantly is the city employees who have to go and pull out that wiring to hook up and allow, so that there's man hours that go into doing this, not just power itself. So $50 is very reasonable when you look at some of our city workers' hourly salary, and then to hook them up. And so the power use is minimal in my mind, but this is, I think, a prudent way to handle the power use and person hours that go into making this happen.
And with that,
Thank you. I just had a brief comment, and something that I've always admired about this legislation is the willingness for our community to work with charitable organizations. So there is a point in this in which we're acknowledging there's no registration fee that's required, first come, first serve, for charitable organizations and civic groups, as well as nonprofit organizations. So I think it's something that I really appreciate about this. We have a lot of people converging on the space, and there's an opportunity to get out and communicate or support a local cause, and I like that about this. Thank you.
Comment? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 10214 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 10314, an ordinance amending ordinance 8714, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Board of Athens County Commissioners and the Village of Amesville to establish the Southeast Ohio Public Energy Council and declaring an emergency. Member Fall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to suspend this particular ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. The idea behind this ordinance is already passed. However, we are amending the one that was passed fairly recently to remove a copy of which, to remove the requirement for a copy of the agreement to go along, because that made it very cumbersome every time a new organization or a new city or a new village joined SOPEC. And so this makes it a much more efficient and versatile SOPECian sort of thing. So.
The ordinance 8714 there, when I had submitted all the information to it, I gave you too much information. It was a draft copy of the contract that we were going to enter in as a council of governments with the county and Amesville. Again, they're on a learning curve. We just had a meeting this afternoon, of course, and they're learning stuff all the time, and we have to put bylaws together. We have to create a COG, council of governments. So one of the concerns, of course, is that if we have to go and play hardball with the electric companies, they could say, well, wait a second, this being the draft that was put in 8714 is not exactly the final product. So we want some leeway to actually, to learn from our experience as we go. So we might have to modify that, both the COG agreement as well as the bylaws that would be put in place. So not to hamstring us in terms of that dialogue or the ability to actually defend what we have, I felt it was necessary to take it out. And at the request of, go ahead.
Yeah, otherwise, every time you made a change in that language, you would have to come to us and present it, and we'd have to pass a new ordinance. So, who wants to do that?
Oh, yes, and again, we're trying to move
I
this
know.
as quickly as possible, so that's why. I know Member Patterson and Cochran have both have been making the meetings. Again, there's a lot to learn on this. We're learning as we go, and we try to get it as fast as possible so we can get the rates down. So that's why this has been reintroduced. So we have a little bit more time. We have the ability to make mistakes, and at least learn before we put them in writing.
Okay, this motion is to suspend the rules. All those in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance O-103-14 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
I move to pass 103, to adopt 103-14 for all the reasons that we have just said.
All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 103-14 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is adopted. Moving on, we have some announcements and other business. Member Paul?
Thank you. I'd like to announce several appointments to our different commissions that are in the city, which commissions are extraordinarily important in the running of Athens. And every time somebody volunteers to do their bit on a commission, I just send out my great giant thanks to them, because it is, unpaid. And they're putting their heart and soul into it, and that's what makes Athens Athens. So for the historic, whatever the commission is called, Preservation Commission, we'd like to appoint Ann Fiddler to the commission. She has a law background, and she lives on Elmwood, which is one of our historical preservation areas in town. And so I would like to move that we accept her nomination and appoint her.
Second.
All those in favor of adopting Ann Fiedler as a member of the Historical Society?
Preservation Commission.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Congratulations. Thank you, Ms. Fiedler.
I have a couple more.
Oh, you have more? Okay, I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
I think we need to have a rule that all our commissions have some kind of acronym, like a COG or a SOPAC, or so much easier. Okay, there's 3 people who the planner has suggested to join our Environmental and Sustainability Commission. The first is Emily Carnahan. She has she's the county planner, the new county planner. And I think that's essential, because the county planner has a gestalt sort of idea of what's going on in the county, and also the city, and when you have environmental and sustainability discussions, you need to have that big picture. The second person I'd like to nominate is Richard Linscott. He's an OU planning student, and he also was a city intern for a while. So he has a lot of information and knowledge, not only on planning, which is close to my heart, but also the inner workings of the city. And the last person is Matt Roberts, and he works on food access and health issues, which is really important in our area for long-term environmental and sustainability, because of all the work that we've been doing to do locally sourced food and development using food and health issues for economic development. So I move that we appoint the 3 people I have put forward for nomination to the Environmental and Sustainability Commission.
All those in favor?
Second.
Excuse me, second? Okay. And so we will move.
And just to reiterate, the Environmental and Sustainability Commission will be meeting to talk about a city sustainability and climate action plan.
Right. So they are
That's
very,
gonna-
very busy.
They're going to be very busy, starting the 15th, getting public input. And that's part of the reason why you have citizen boards, so that you have the public input. And the county planner, of course, works at the Soil and Water Conservation District, so she's cognizant of the needs of conservation.
Right.
I would just add one other thing, that many of us have received emails regarding an antibiotic resolution, and I think that information and request should be sent to the Sustainability Commission as a way for them to kind of talk through it, vet it, and then bring it forward to council.
I'll talk to Paul. I will put forward. Okay.
Once more. All those in favor bringing Emily Carnahan, Richard Linscott, and Matt Roberts onto the Environmental Sustainability Commission, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Congratulations to these people for their coming service to the city of Athens. Now, Member Butler, I think.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too have a nominee that has been determined as an appropriate designee for the Athens Municipal Arts Commission. We know we have a vibrant arts community, and this individual, Mr. Donovan Noble, has expressed interest. I sent the resume out earlier this fall to council members for them to peruse. Mr. Noble has a degree in interior architecture, and he's excited to join the Municipal Arts Commission. So I'd like to move to appoint him.
Second.
Council members, all in favor of accepting Donovan Noble to the Arts Commission, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Welcome to Mr. Noble.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All these people for their service, their agreement to serve on city commissions. We have an opportunity for
Oh, please. Can I have one?
yeah.
I want one. I feel left out.
Okay. Committee meetings for next week's Monday meeting? No?
Finance
Yes.
and personnel.
That's just a standing committee for Chris's.
Okay. Next week, we will have committee meetings. Right now, we have an opportunity for citizens to speak.
The mayor.
The mayor, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Part of the Finance and Personnel Committee will be actually trying to work our way through the budget for next year. We've been putting together a timetable. I don't know if you've received copies of it. So the intention is actually to start up the next committee meeting, the 13th, looking at revenue projections, I believe. We're going to try putting that together. No.
2 weeks.
2 weeks? No, I thought it was just coming up.
Nope.
Okay, we're not going to do it that way. But next 2 weeks is going to be regular session. So you want a regular session, committee after regular session?
Regular session.
Okay, we're going to have one too. There you go.
And we're still meeting on
2
Monday.
weeks. Revenue in 2 weeks. What are you trying to do?
I thought
Next
that was
week is
the
committee.
agreement, that was the schedule we were working on last week.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. We'll have committee
No, I thought next week you were going to talk about your schedule and what your planning was going to be.
We've already distributed it so that the plan was to potentially look at revenue projections on the 13th, if that's a possibility. Maybe we could switch around some of the other discussions.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay,
No problem.
thank you.
It's always been done in a regular session.
Committees, meetings?
Revenue projections,
Okay. You're talking about a report?
yes.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Okay, just one quick thing. At the beginning of the meeting, there was a mention about League of Women Voters meeting tomorrow night, beginning at 6:30 at the Athens Public Library. We will have, this is the forum for Athens County Auditor with Kathy Heck and Jill Thompson both being there. Beginning at 6:30, should end by 8 o'clock.
I also have a question. I don't know if you, I Debbie Walker forward clerk council forward the quarterly report from the Economic Development Council?
Yes.
Okay, so you did receive that. I just want to make sure. Okay.
Okay. Finally, opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that were not covered on the agenda. Anything in addition that you'd like to talk to us about? Seeing no one, we will adjourn this evening.